A former U.S. government intelligence agent who worked for the CIA during attacks on September 11, 2001, has given a sworn affidavit stating that 9/11 was an inside job. The ex-CIA agent, who's also an experienced commercial airline pilot, has blown the whistle on the destruction of the World Trade Center buildings, claiming that the three towers were actually brought down by controlled demolitions, and not by passenger planes that were flown by amateur pilots. Former CIA agent John Lear has not only given a sworn statement as an expert witness, but he has also produced conclusive evidence that disproves the official narrative that the towers were destroyed by airplanes that were hijacked and flown by terrorists. Speaking under oath, Agent Lear confirms that the WTC buildings in New York were demolished using pre-planted explosives in a carefully orchestrated and well-engineered plot by the United States government and CIA, adding, "No Boeing 767 airliners hit the Twin Towers as fraudulently alleged by the government, media, NIST, and its contractors." His statements have finally confirmed the long-standing theory that the Twin Towers were struck by military planes that had been made to resemble passenger jets, and a controlled demolition reduced the buildings to rubble afterward. The third plane failed to strike WTC-7 as initially intended due to unknown complications, but all three towers were still destroyed as planned. These revelations by Lear tie in completely with the statements by last month by dying CIA agent Malcolm Howard, who made a deathbed confession that he was part of a highly classified operation that was tasked with blowing up World Trade Center Building 7. Speaking from a hospital bed, the New Jersey native says he was part of a cell of 4 CIA operatives who worked on a project dubbed New Century between May 1997 and September 2001 that was tasked with ensuring the successful demolition of WTC-7. At a time, he says, the CIA was still taking orders from the top. Even Donald Trump, who is one of the most experienced property developers in New York City, stated that the building could only have been brought down by explosive as planes would never be able to penetrate the steel beams. Speaking about the impossibility of passenger jets being flown into the towers, CIA agent John Lear stated in his sworn affidavit, "Such crashes did not occur because they are physically impossible as depicted, for the following reasons. In the case of UAL 175 going into the South Tower, a real Boeing 767 would have begun telescoping when the nose hit the 14-inch steel columns, which are 39 inches on center. The vertical and horizontal tail would have instantaneously separated from the aircraft, hit the steel box columns and fallen to the ground. The engines, when impacting the steel columns, would have maintained their general shape and either fallen to the ground or been recovered in the debris of the collapsed building. No Boeing 767 could attain a speed of 540 miles per hour at 1,000 feet above sea level. Parasite drag doubles with velocity and parasite power cubes with velocity. The fan portion of the engine is not designed to accept the volume of dense air at that altitude and speed. The piece of alleged external fuselage containing 3 or 4 window cutouts is inconsistent with an airplane that hit 14-inch steel box columns. Placed at over 500 miles per hour, it would have crumpled. No significant part of the Boeing 767 or engine could have penetrated the 14-inch steel columns and 37 feet beyond the massive core of the tower without part of it falling to the ground. The debris of the collapse should have contained massive sections of the Boeing 767, including 3 engine cores weighing approximately 9,000 pounds apiece, which could not have been hidden. Yet there is no evidence of any of these massive structural components from either 767 at the WTC. Such complete disappearance of 767s is impossible. Unlike any other form of statement, an affidavit becomes truth in law if it is not rebutted. It will now be up to critics of the theory to present their evidence and analysis to rebut the statement point by point. If they do not or cannot, then the U.S. government will by omission be allowing that the account given by the 9/11 Commission is wrong. The retired airline captain and former CIA pilot who has over 19,000 hours of flight time also drew attention to the inexperience of the pilots who allegedly flew the planes. The alleged controlled descent into New York on a relatively straight course by a novice pilot is unlikely in the extreme because of the difficulty of controlling heading, descent rate and descent speed within the parameters of controlled flight. It takes a highly skilled pilot to interpret the EFIS, Electronic Flight Instrument Display, with which none of the hijacker pilots would have been familiar or received training on, and use his controls, including the ailerons, rudder, elevators, spoilers, and throttles to effect, control and maintain a descent. Lear has, according to his sworn statement, flown over 100 different types of planes during his 40 years of flying and holds more FAA airman certificates than any other FAA certificated airman. He flew secret missions for the CIA in Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, the Middle East and Africa between 1967 and 1983, then spent 17 years working for several passenger and cargo airlines as captain, check airman, and instructor. He is a member of PILOTSFOR911TRUTH.org, which has consistently argued that it was impossible for jet airliners to have hit the Twin Towers in the way the 9/11's Commission has suggested. The Commission did not take evidence from pilots when it conducted its inquiry into the attacks from 2002 to 2004.